Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Ratchet and Clank Marathon. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite weapons that I used during my playthrough of Going Commando. We won't be talking about the Gadgetron remakes of the Ratchet and Clank 1 weapons. I feel like those were covered good enough in my Ratchet and Clank 1 video. So let's specifically go ahead and talk about some amazing Going Commando weapons. The first gun on our list to talk about is the mini rocket tube. Truthfully, I didn't use this gun too much. I enjoyed it for sure, it was a nice addition to the game, but I felt it was overall a weak choice compared to a lot of the other choices in the game. It seemed to be the gun I came to when I ran out of ammo for my other weapons. A good gun, but just a tad bit underpowered to be a hard-hitting, top-of-the-list kind of gun. The gravity bomb is one of the two weapons you start with in Going Commando, and it's a fantastic starting weapon. Unlike the bomb glove in the past games, this one has a much better travel distance, lock-on ability, and explosive range that allows it to really pack a punch against large mobs of enemies, and even do a decent chunk of damage against larger enemies. It's a fantastic weapon that you can rely on through a large portion of the game. The chopper was my favorite gun back when I was a kid, and I used it like crazy all the time. Just being able to spam a bunch of stars into an enemy and watch them swarm around in circles doing constant damage was so entrancing, especially against big bosses like Chainblade. The chopper is a pretty great gun though. I did die down my usage of it a bit on this playthrough though, just due to my ability to kinda see that it's not as strong as I once believed it to be. Don't get me wrong, once you get a lock-on mod for this gun, you can start doing some really sweet maneuvers with it and cause some massive damage, but compared to the other guns on this list, it does fall short just a tad from time to time. The shield charger is next up. Originally, I was going to have this lower on the list, like kind of at the bottom, but after playing around a bit, I realized it really has some great potential. Not amazing like the drone device in Ratchet and Clank 1, due to the shield charger's horrible offensive abilities, but using it as strictly a defensive tool is too much of a benefit to put down. Not only will this great little device help you from taking damage, but even more importantly, it can help keep your bolt streaks alive in challenge mode, allowing you to really stack up those 20x multiplier bolts that you need to buy mega guns and rarer guns like the Rhino and Zodiac. That alone shows how helpful this little gadget can be. Even if it's not quite a drone device, it still deserves a spot on this list. The Seeker Gun, the most noob-friendly gun in Ratchet and Clank. Can't aim? Just let the gun do the shooting for you then. Point and click and this bad boy will lock onto anything nearby and seek and destroy. Hence the name. I mean, there isn't too much to say here. This gun is easy to use, does a pretty nice chunk of damage, and becomes a bigger crowd control weapon once you upgrade it, allowing for 3 Seeker bullets at a time. Are you going to be taking down giant monster bosses with this thing alone? Probably not, but it's a great weapon to always have on your side, just in case you need that little extra bit of damage or there's some floating bugger in the air who you don't want to deal with. The mini turret, probably my MVP of this run through of the game, and one of the weapons I'm most surprised by this time. I mean, if you watched my review, you saw me melt through some bosses with these beasts. Just pop a couple down, switch to any other gun you want, and watch your DPS skyrocket. And speaking of rockets, upgrading these turrets will change them from shooting bullets to shooting rockets, and these things pack a punch. They aren't quite fast enough to keep up with faster enemies, but for the most basic enemies in the game, you'll find these work perfectly fine as a good backup. Just don't try using them on the Megapede. They won't catch up with this thing. I mean, it's funny watching a ton of rockets fly around a room trying to catch up with a monster, as they just circle and circle, but you're kind of wasting ammo at that point. The Blitz Gun, the shotgun of this game, and a massive damage monster. This gun drops on the first real planet you explore, and you'll most likely find it sitting in your arsenal for the rest of the game. It packs a massive punch and deals a huge amount of damage into a very wide area, allowing you to hit multiple enemies hard and strong. There is a decent amount of drop-off with the gun, but that's not a huge deal with the change to the strafe mechanic of going commando, allowing you to weave and dodge around enemies while also dealing max damage. Once upgraded as well, it doesn't drastically change the gun, but just makes it stronger all around, giving you a wider spread that shoots further and does more damage. It's an unstoppable machine that just gets better and better as you progress through the game. The Synthenoids are another great addition to Ratchet's arsenal, giving him a quick ability to spawn 4 companions to help you increase your overall damage per second, at a pretty low cost. Tossing a few mini turrets on the ground combined with these can make for a huge increase in damage. Once again, they aren't quite the drone device, but they have more range, more damage overall per ammo spent, and can dish out a lot, saving you tons of ammo in the long run. The Bouncer, one of the best and most fun to use guns in all of Ratchet and Clank. Not only is this thing a force to be reckoned with when it comes to damage output, it is also just stupidly fun. With just one button press, you are launching a massive volley of bombs across the entire battlefield, and once you upgrade it, those become bigger and more powerful. This thing is so destructive, it's actually the only thing that could cause my game to lag while playing it, and that takes some effort. But when you have a dozen plus explosives going off all at the same time, what can you do? I love using this thing in every one of my playthroughs, and it's a gun I go out of my way to buy every time. The last gun on the list for today is the Plasma Coil. Not as fun or cool as the Bouncer, but its sheer strength and destructive power is just too much to pass up and not show off. This thing rips through anything and everything, doing huge amounts of damage to enemies and bosses. It's also not just a single target weapon. This thing will kill anything near it as it travels in a straight line and causes massive damage on impact. There was not one instance during my playthrough going commando that made me say, maybe it would be better if I wasn't using the Plasma Coil. This thing is just broken and OP for the price you can buy it for. And if you've never used the Plasma Coil, you're missing out on some amazing damage and fun. Go out and pick it up and give it a try. And that's it for today. Thank you all so much for coming out to check my new awesome video, and make sure to come back every Friday for a brand new episode. Next week, more Ratchet and Clank. So feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to get notified when the next Ratchet and Clank video comes out. And until then, thank you all for watching and sticking around until the very end. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Just a quick thank you to my YouTube and Patreon supporters. You guys are so generous, and I thank you a million times over. If anyone else would like to help support the channel and the content I create, feel free to check the description below for links to my Patreon.